Fazza had always believed that life was nothing more than a quiet repetition of ordinary moments. The same streets, the same faces, the same silent evenings that melted into long nights. Nothing ever surprised him anymore. Or maybe, he had simply stopped expecting anything that could. He wasn't broken. But he wasn't complete either. There was always this strange emptiness inside him, like a story that had begun long ago but had somehow forgotten how to end. Every night, he would sit by his window, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars trapped on Earth. People passed below him laughing, talking, living. And yet, he felt like an observer, not a participant. As if life was happening around him, but not to him. That night was different. The sky was heavy with clouds, and rain had started falling in soft, uneven drops. The kind of rain that doesn't rush but lingers, like it's trying to say something. Fazza walked aimlessly down the street, hands in his pockets, eyes lost somewhere between thoughts and nothingness. And then he heard it. Zara. A voice from behind. It wasn't meant for him. But his heart reacted like it was. He stopped walking. Slowly turned. There was a girl standing across the road, someone calling her again. Zara, wait. And for a moment, everything else disappeared. The noise. The rain. The world. All gone. Only that name remained. Zara. It echoed inside him in a way he couldn't explain. Why did it feel familiar? Why did it feel like something he had lost? Without ever having that night, Fazza couldn't sleep. Not because of the rain, but because of a name. The next morning, life tried to return to normal. But it failed. Because Fazza wasn't the same anymore. He didn't understand it, but something inside him had shifted. Like a locked door had quietly opened somewhere deep within his soul. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something. It happened again. Not the voice this time. Her. Fazza saw her standing outside a small bookstore. She was holding a novel, flipping through its pages slowly, like she wasn't just reading words, but feeling them. Her presence wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. And yet, it was impossible to ignore. Her hair moved gently with the wind, her eyes calm but distant, like they carried stories she had never told anyone. Fazza didn't walk toward her. He didn't speak. He just stood there. Watching. Not in a way that was intrusive, but in a way that felt inevitable. Why does she feel familiar? That question stayed with him. And strangely, it didn't scare him. Days passed. And somehow, their paths kept crossing. At the same street. Near the same cafe. Around the same time. Coincidence maybe. Or maybe fate was slowly writing something neither of them could yet understand. Fazza began noticing the smallest things. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The way she paused before stepping onto the road. The way she smiled not fully, but just enough to hide something deeper. She wasn't just a person. She was a mystery. And somehow, he felt connected to that mystery. But Fazza wasn't the kind of person who approached strangers. He didn't believe in sudden conversations or forced connections. He believed that if something was real, it would happen on its own. And one evening, it did. The sky was painted in shades of orange and fading gold. The city was quieter than usual, as if even time had slowed down. She was walking ahead of him, holding the same book again. And then, it slipped from her hands, fell to the ground. Fazza stepped forward without thinking, picked it up, and as he handed it back, their fingers touched. Just for a second. But it was enough. Time didn't stop. But it changed. "Thank you," she said softly. Her voice. It felt exactly how he imagined it. Warm. Gentle. Familiar. Too familiar. And before he could stop himself, he said it. "Zara." She froze. Her expression shifted, not fear, not anger, but confusion. "How do you know my name?" Fazza stood there, speechless. Because he didn't know the answer. Not one that made sense. I heard someone call you before," he said quietly. It was the easiest lie. And the hardest truth. She looked at him for a moment longer, as if trying to read something beyond his words. Then, she smiled. A small, soft smile. "Still, that's a strange way to remember someone." Fazza almost smiled back. "Maybe you're just not easy to forget." There was a pause. Not awkward. Not empty. Just something new. "I'm Zara," she said. "I know," he replied. And just like that, something began. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But deeply. They didn't exchange numbers. Didn't make plans. Didn't define anything. And yet, they both knew. This wasn't the end of their meeting. It was just the beginning. That night, Fazza sat by his window again. But this time, he wasn't empty. Because somewhere, in the quiet corners of his heart, a name had found its place. Zara. And without realizing it, his story had finally started. After that evening, something changed between them. Not instantly. Not loudly. But deeply. They didn't fall in love the way stories usually describe. There were no dramatic confessions. No sudden promises. Just presence. Fazza and Zara began meeting more often, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes by quiet intention. A shared cup of tea turned into long conversations. Simple walks turned into silent understandings. With her, Fazza didn't feel the need to pretend. And with him, Zara didn't feel the need to hide. At least, not completely. "Do you believe in fate?" Zara asked one evening, her eyes fixed on the fading sky. Fazza thought for a moment. "I didn't," he said honestly. "But now, I'm not so sure." She smiled faintly. "Maybe fate isn't about meeting someone," she said softly, "maybe it's about what they leave inside you." Fazza looked at her. And for the first time, he felt fear. Not of losing her, but of realizing how much she already meant. Days turned into something more meaningful. Zara laughed more freely around him. Fazza spoke more openly than he ever had. They weren't just sharing moments anymore. They were becoming part of each other's lives. But love has a quiet way of revealing truths. And Zara was hiding one. There were nights she grew distant. Moments her smile didn't reach her eyes. Times she would stop mid-conversation, as if pulled back by something unseen. Fazza noticed. He always noticed. But he never forced her to explain. Because love that demands answers isn't really love. One evening, as they sat under the same street light where everything had begun, Fazza finally asked, "Zara, what are you afraid of?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at him with a sadness he had never seen before. "I'm afraid of staying," she whispered. Fazza's heart tightened. "And I'm afraid of you leaving," he replied. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't need more words. That night felt different. He could feel it. Like something was ending, before it even had the chance to fully begin. And then, she was gone. No message. No goodbye. No trace. Fazza searched everywhere. The bookstore. The cafe. The quiet street where they first met. But she wasn't there. Not anymore. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And slowly, the world returned to normal. But Fazza didn't. He still walked those same roads. Still looked for her in crowds. Still paused when he heard her name. Hoping, just once, it would be her. People told him to forget. To move on. To accept that some people aren't meant to stay. But they didn't understand. Zara wasn't just someone who left. She was someone who became a part of him. And how do you forget a part of yourself then one night? Fate returned. Rain fell softly, just like the first night. The street light flickered again. And there she stood. Zara. Fazza didn't move at first. Because sometimes, when something feels impossible, you're afraid it might disappear if you get too close. But she didn't disappear. She stepped forward. slowly, carefully. Like she didn't belong to that moment, but had come anyway. "I'm sorry," she said. Fazza let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Then don't leave again." Her eyes filled with something heavier than sadness. "I can't stay." And just like that, his heart broke, again. This time, she didn't hide the truth. "I was promised to someone else," she said quietly. "Long before I met you." The words felt unreal. Like they didn't belong in his story. "I tried to ignore it," she continued. "I tried to fight it. But some decisions aren't ours to change." Fazza looked away. Because looking at her made it harder to breathe. "Then why did you come back?" he asked. Zara stepped closer, placed her hand over his heart. The same place where her name had lived from the very beginning. "Because you deserved the truth," she said softly. "And because leaving without saying goodbye would have meant you were just a moment." Her voice broke slightly. "But you're not." Tears fell. Silently. "You're something I'll carry forever," she whispered. "Even if I can't stay." Fazza closed his eyes. Because in that moment, he understood something painful. Love doesn't always choose timing. And fate doesn't always choose fairness. "Then what are we?" he asked. Zara smiled through tears. "Something real, that wasn't meant to last." That night, they didn't promise forever. Didn't fight for impossible endings. Didn't pretend things would change. They just stood there. Together. For the last time. And then she walked away. This time, he didn't stop her. Years passed. Life moved forward. Like it always does. Fazza changed. Not completely. But enough to understand things he never did before. He learned that some people come into your life not to stay, but to teach you how deeply you're capable of feeling. One day, while cleaning old things, he found the book. The same one she had dropped the first time.